In a galaxy filled with countless stars and planets, peace had reigned for 3,000 years under the watchful eye of the Galactic Council. The Council, made up of leaders from various alien races, had maintained harmony through cooperation and mutual respect. But, as time passed, a new force emerged on the horizon: humanity. On Earth, humans were curious and adventurous. They had developed powerful technology that allowed them to explore distant worlds. Their ships flew faster than ever, and their scientists made remarkable discoveries. However, not all alien races viewed humanity with favor. Some saw humans as a growing threat to the fragile peace they had built. The Council's leaders, gathered in a grand chamber filled with shimmering lights and holographic displays, debated this very issue. Zanok, a leader from a race known as the Drellians, stood up first. His tall, slender frame cast a long shadow as he spoke. "We must take action against humanity. They are reckless and dangerous. Their ships are now wandering into our territories. If we do not act now, they will invade and take what is ours." His words sent a chill through the chamber. Many leaders nodded in agreement, fearing the implications of humanity's expansion. Among them was Lyra, a wise elder from the peaceful Sarnath race. She raised her hand to speak. "We must not rush to war. Remember, it was cooperation that brought us peace. We should send a message to humanity instead of declaring war." But Zanok's fiery words ignited fear. "They will not listen to messages. We must show them our strength, or they will not respect us." The debate grew louder as voices clashed, each leader worried about their own people and what the future held. Meanwhile, on Earth, news of the Council's discussions reached the ears of the human leaders. A meeting was called in the United Nations headquarters, where representatives from around the world gathered. President Elena Carter stood at the front, her expression serious. "We must understand what is happening. The Galactic Council fears us, and that could lead to war. We cannot let fear drive us into conflict." The representatives exchanged worried glances. There were so many unknowns. Could they trust these alien races? What did they want from humanity? The fear of the unknown hung heavily in the air. After much discussion, they decided to strengthen Earth's defenses. They would prepare for any potential threats. As humanity readied itself, the Galactic Council made a fateful decision. They would send a fleet of ships to patrol the borders of their territories. If humans crossed into restricted zones again, they would respond with force. The leaders believed this would send a clear message that they would not tolerate any further intrusion. But this decision set off a chain reaction. The Council's ships began to patrol the outskirts of human space. The very first skirmish occurred when a human exploration vessel, the USS Intrepid, accidentally wandered into a Drellian sector while charting a new route. The crew, unaware of their trespass, made contact with a Drellian outpost. The Drellians reacted swiftly. They perceived this as a direct threat. Their ships surrounded the Intrepid, demanding it leave their territory immediately. The human captain, James Harper, tried to explain that it was an accident, but the Drellians would not listen. The situation escalated, and in the chaos, shots were fired. As the news of the conflict spread through the Council, panic ensued. Council members were now forced to confront the reality that war might be on the horizon. The once unbreakable peace was in jeopardy. Back on Earth, President Carter received urgent reports about the skirmish. The atmosphere in the room shifted as she realized that the situation was more serious than anyone had anticipated. "We have to respond quickly," she said, her voice steady. "We cannot let this escalate. We need to reach out to the Council and explain that we meant no harm." But deep down, she feared it might be too late. The Council had been pushed to the edge, and now humanity stood on the brink of war. The future was uncertain, and tension gripped both humans and aliens as they prepared for the storm that was about to break. Thus began a new chapter in the galaxy's history, where the choices of both sides would determine the fate of many. Little did they know, the conflict that was brewing would change the galaxy forever. The news of the skirmish between the USS Intrepid and the Drellian fleet spread like wildfire through the Galactic Council. Panic and fear gripped the leaders as they met in the Grand Chamber once more. The bright lights and holographic displays flickered ominously as the members took their seats, tension thick in the air. Zanok stood at the center of the chamber, his sharp features betraying his excitement. "This is proof! Humanity cannot be trusted. They do not respect our borders. We must take decisive action against them. If we do not act now, we risk losing everything we have built for thousands of years." His words resonated with many council members. They whispered among themselves, exchanging worried glances. A few stood to voice their concerns, but the tide had turned. The fear of humanity had become a powerful force within the council. Lyra, the wise elder from the Sarnath race, attempted to speak again. We must consider the consequences of declaring war. War will bring suffering and destruction. We should seek a peaceful solution, not a violent one. But Zanuck interrupted her. Peace? Do you think humanity will respect peace? They will only see it as weakness. We cannot let our guard down! His voice rose, drowning out any further arguments. One by one, council members began to voice their agreement with Zanuck. A leader from the Zalorian race stood up, his blue skin shimmering in the light. I support a declaration of war. We must unite against this threat. If we do not act together, we will be overwhelmed. As discussions turned into heated debates, a vote was finally called. The atmosphere in the chamber was electric as the council members cast their votes. Lyra and a few others voted against war, but the majority supported Zanuck's proposal. When the final tally was announced, a heavy silence fell over the room. The council had declared war on humanity. The decision echoed in the minds of every leader, a dark shadow looming over the galaxy. Back on Earth, President Elena Carter received urgent news about the council's decision. She gathered her team in the Oval Office, her heart pounding with anxiety. The weight of the galaxy felt heavy on her shoulders. This is not just about our survival anymore. We need to prepare for what's coming, she stated firmly. The room buzzed with a mix of fear and determination. Leaders from different countries joined the meeting, each expressing their concerns. They quickly agreed on a plan to strengthen Earth's defenses, ramp up military training, and unite the world against the impending threat. As humanity scrambled to prepare, the Galactic Council's war machine began to roll into action. Ships were commissioned and fleets were assembled, all under the banner of the Galactic Council. Each race contributed their most advanced ships and weapons, ready to strike at humanity. The first wave of attacks came swiftly. Ships from the Galactic Council entered Earth's orbit, their massive forms casting shadows on the blue planet below. They sent a message demanding humanity's surrender and compliance with the Council's demands. The message was clear: failure to comply would result in destruction. President Carter and her team understood that time was running out. We must respond with strength, she said, her voice steady. We will not surrender. We will fight for our right to exist. The room erupted in agreement, and a sense of determination filled the air. In the days that followed, Earth prepared for war like never before. Military bases were reinforced and citizens were called to arms. News networks broadcasted updates, rallying people to join the fight. A sense of unity emerged as people from different backgrounds and nations came together to protect their home. Meanwhile, the Council's ships began their bombardment of key targets on Earth. Major cities faced aerial assaults, and panic spread among the population. The skies darkened with smoke as buildings crumbled under the Council's might. But amidst the chaos, stories of bravery and heroism emerged. Citizens fought back using whatever they could find. Young and old took to the streets, defending their homes and families. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, debates erupted once again. Some leaders expressed doubts about the war, questioning if it was worth the cost of lives. But Zanuck, fueled by his desire for power, pushed for a full-scale invasion of Earth. As the conflict escalated, both sides prepared for the inevitable battles that lay ahead. The galaxy was now divided, with humanity standing against the might of the Galactic Council. The peaceful era of 3,000 years had shattered, giving way to a new age of uncertainty and conflict. In this moment, both humanity and the Council were forced to confront the choices they had made. As the first shots were fired, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Little did they know, this war would change everything forever. The war had begun, and chaos erupted across the globe. News of the Galactic Council's attack spread quickly. Cities were filled with fear, but amid the panic, a fierce determination arose among the people of Earth. They had no choice but to fight for their survival. In the command center of Earth's United Defense Forces, President Elena Carter watched the screens showing live footage of the Council's ships hovering over major cities. The sleek, imposing vessels loomed like dark clouds, ready to unleash destruction at any moment. The air was thick with tension as military leaders gathered around the central table, planning their next move. "Ma'am, we need to respond immediately," said General Marcus Lee, a grizzled veteran with years of experience. We can't let them attack our cities without a fight. Elena nodded, her eyes narrowing with resolve. You're right, General. We need to strike first. If we show them our strength, they may think twice before attacking again. The room buzzed with energy as the leaders discussed strategies. They knew the Council had advanced technology, but humanity had something they lacked: resourcefulness and courage. Plans were laid out to use everything they had, from fighter jets to makeshift weapons crafted from everyday items. Meanwhile, in the skies above, the Galactic Council's ships prepared for their assault. Commander Varys, a Drellian warrior known for his ruthlessness, stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Conqueror. His green skin glistened under the lights as he surveyed the targets on his screen. "Prepare the bombardment," Varys commanded, his voice echoing through the control room. "Show these humans the consequences of their defiance." As the command was given, a series of explosions rocked the city of New York. Bright flashes lit up the sky, and panic spread like wildfire. People ran through the streets, trying to find shelter as debris rained down. The once bustling city was now a scene of chaos, but humanity was not without its fight. In a nearby military base, a squadron of fighter jets took to the skies, led by Captain Sarah Mitchell. She gripped the controls tightly, adrenaline pumping through her veins. "This is our chance!" she shouted over the radio. "We will not back down!" The jets soared into the air, their engines roaring. As they approached the alien ships, the pilots prepared for combat. The Drellian ships were massive, but they were not invincible. Sarah and her team flew into formation, aiming their weapons at the approaching threat. "Engage the enemy!" Sarah commanded, and the squadron unleashed a hail of missiles toward the Conqueror. Explosions erupted as the missiles struck the ship, sending shockwaves through the air. Varys on the bridge felt the impact. "Return fire!" he shouted. "Show them the might of the Galactic Council." Beams of energy shot from the alien ships, striking the jets with deadly precision. Several human fighters were hit, spiraling out of control. But Sarah pressed on, her determination unwavering. She maneuvered her jet with skill, dodging enemy fire as she and her squadron continued their assault. As the battle raged in the skies, chaos unfolded on the ground. In a small town in Europe, residents gathered to defend their homes. Armed with whatever they could find, baseball bats, kitchen knives, and old hunting rifles, they formed a resistance group. "Together we can protect our town," shouted a young man named Tom, rallying the others. "We won't let them take our home without a fight." As the first council ship descended, the townsfolk launched their makeshift attack. They fired their weapons, surprising the aliens who were not prepared for such a fierce defense. The small group fought bravely, refusing to back down against the superior technology of the Council. Back in the command center, President Carter watched in awe as reports of human bravery flooded in. "They're fighting back!" she exclaimed. "We have to support them!" As the military launched additional airstrikes and ground forces prepared to engage, the spirit of humanity burned bright. Despite the overwhelming odds, people from all corners of the world united, showing that even in the face of darkness, hope could shine through. The first attacks had not only brought destruction, but had ignited a fire in the hearts of humans. They were no longer afraid. They had become warriors, fighting for their homes and families. As the battle continued, both sides began to realize that this conflict would not end easily. The war had just begun, and the galaxy was about to witness the true spirit of humanity. The war raged on, but humanity refused to surrender. The first attacks by the Galactic Council had shocked Earth, but they also sparked a fierce determination to fight back. As news of human resistance spread, hope began to bloom like flowers in spring. In the command center of Earth's United Defense Forces, President Elena Carter and her team were hard at work. After weeks of conflict, they had learned from their mistakes. They had seen what worked and what didn't. Now, it was time to turn the tide of the war. "General Lee, what's our current situation?" Elena asked, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the battle map. "We've managed to hold our ground in several cities," General Lee replied, "but the Council's forces are still strong. We need a bold plan to strike back." Elena nodded. "What if we focus our efforts on one key target? If we can take out one of their main ships, it could shift the momentum in our favor." Lee considered her words. "That's risky, but it could work. We should target the Conqueror. If we can disable their flagship, we might be able to disrupt their command." The The room buzzed with excitement as the leaders discussed the plan. They quickly organized a team of elite soldiers, special forces who had trained for the toughest missions. Among them was Captain Sarah Mitchell, who had already proven her bravery in battle. "Captain Mitchell, I want you to lead this mission," Elena said, looking directly at Sarah. "You and your team will board the Conqueror and disable their systems. This is our chance to turn the tide." Sarah felt a surge of pride at the responsibility, but also the weight of the mission ahead. "I won't let you down, ma'am. We'll do everything we can to succeed." As the elite team prepared, they knew they were stepping into the heart of danger. They gathered their gear, reviewing their plan one last time. Each soldier was ready to face the odds. They knew the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. Meanwhile, aboard the Conqueror, Commander Varys sensed that the tide was shifting. His crew reported that the humans were showing more resistance than expected. He grew frustrated, his sharp features twisted in anger. "Deploy more ships! We need to crush their will to fight," he ordered. As his commands echoed throughout the ship, Varys could not shake the feeling that they were underestimating humanity's resilience. They were fighters, willing to sacrifice everything to protect their home. Back on Earth, the elite team launched their stealth shuttle, flying under the cover of darkness. They approached the Conqueror with determination, their hearts pounding. As they neared the enemy ship, they could see its massive structure illuminated by the stars. "Steady, everyone," Sarah said, her voice calm despite the tension. "We're almost there." With precision, they docked the shuttle in a concealed area of the ship. Once aboard, the team moved quickly, knowing they had limited time before they would be discovered. They followed their plan carefully, using hand signals to communicate silently. As they made their way through the corridors, they encountered a group of Drellian soldiers. Sarah and her team took them by surprise, engaging in a fierce fight. The humans fought with everything they had, drawing on their training and the adrenaline coursing through their veins. After defeating the enemy soldiers, they pressed on, reaching the command center of the Conqueror. The atmosphere was tense, but they remained focused. They quickly set to work, planting explosives around the main control systems. 10 minutes until we detonate," one of the soldiers announced, glancing nervously at the door. "Let's move! We need to get out of here," Sarah urged, her heart racing. Just then, an alarm blared through the ship. Varys had discovered the intruders. "Seal the exits," he commanded, his voice cold and fierce. The humans sprinted toward the shuttle bay, but they could hear footsteps closing in behind them. As they ran, they exchanged quick glances, knowing they had to reach the shuttle before it was too late. With seconds to spare, they arrived at the shuttle bay, breathless and desperate. They quickly boarded their shuttle and prepared for takeoff. "Detonating in 3, 2, 1, shouted Sarah, her finger hovering over the control panel. The ship shook violently as the explosives went off, sending shock waves through the Conqueror. Lights flickered and alarms echoed through the corridors as chaos erupted on board. "Let's get out of here," Sarah shouted, and they launched their shuttle into space just as the flagship erupted in flames behind them. Back on Earth, the news of their success spread like wildfire. Humanity had struck a significant blow against the Galactic Council. The destruction of the Conqueror sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks. As the Council leaders reeled from the loss, the tide of the war began to shift. Earth's soldiers rallied together, fueled by newfound courage and hope. They now believed they could win, that they could stand against the might of the Galactic Council. The first steps toward victory had been taken, but the battle was far from over. Humanity was ready to fight for their future, and they would not back down. With each day that passed, their resolve grew stronger. They were no longer just fighting to survive, they were fighting to win. The battle for Earth had reached a critical point. After the destruction of the Conqueror, the Galactic Council was shaken. They had underestimated humanity's spirit and strength, and now they were desperate to reclaim their power. In the command center of Earth's United Defense Forces, President Elena Carter stood with her team, strategizing their next move. The mood was tense but hopeful. The tide had turned, but the Council would not give up easily. "Now is our chance," General Marcus Lee said, his voice steady. "We have to strike while they are still reeling from the loss. We need to gather our forces and hit them hard." Elena nodded. "We'll launch a full-scale assault on their main base. If we can cripple their command, we can end this war once and for all." As the plan took shape, Captain Sarah Mitchell and her elite team prepared for the final showdown. They had faced danger before, but this time the stakes were higher than ever. They were no longer just fighting for survival, they were fighting for the future of humanity. In space, the Galactic Council regrouped. Commander Varys was furious. The destruction of the Conqueror had not only cost them a powerful ship, but it had also shattered their confidence. He was determined to strike back with everything he had. "Send every ship we have to defend our base," Varys commanded, his eyes blazing with anger. "We will crush these humans once and for all." With the Council's ships assembling, the stage was set for the final battle. Earth's forces mobilized, ready to face their enemies head-on. As the two sides prepared to clash, tension filled the air. "Today we fight for our freedom," Elena announced to the troops gathered before her. "Today we show the galaxy that we will not be cowed. We are humans, and we will not back down." Cheers erupted from the soldiers, their spirits lifted by her words. They boarded their ships, ready to engage the enemy in a way they had never done before. As they soared into the sky, the vastness of space awaited them, filled with danger and hope. The two fleets met in a fierce showdown. Explosions lit up the stars as ships engaged in battle. Human fighters darted between the larger council vessels, firing their weapons with precision. Sarah and her team flew together, covering each other as they navigated the chaos. "Stay focused! Watch your six!" Sarah shouted, her voice steady over the radio. They fought bravely, determined to protect their home. The Council's ships were massive and well-armed, but the humans were agile and relentless. They used their knowledge of Earth's terrain to their advantage, striking with speed and ferocity. As the battle raged on, Elena coordinated the ground forces, directing them to target key enemy ships. "Take out their command vessels! We need to disrupt their strategy!" In the heat of battle, Sarah spotted a familiar shape in the distance, the flagship of the Galactic Council, the Dominion. "That's their command ship!" she exclaimed, her heart racing. "If we take it down, we can cripple their operations." With renewed determination, Sarah and her team set their sights on the Dominion. They navigated through the chaos, dodging enemy fire as they approached their target. "Get ready!" Sarah shouted as they closed in on the massive ship. "On my mark, we launch everything we've got!" As they neared, the ship loomed larger, its weapons trained on them. But the humans were ready. "Now!" Sarah ordered, and they unleashed a volley of missiles at the Dominion. The missiles struck with precision, causing the flagship to shudder under the impact. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans pressed their advantage, firing again and again. In the command center of the Dominion, Varys watched in horror as his flagship took hit after hit. "Return fire! Destroy those humans!" he shouted, but his orders fell on deaf ears. Panic spread among his crew as the ship began to break apart. Just then, Sarah and her team launched their final assault. With one last push, they aimed for the core of the Dominion. "This is it!" she yelled, her heart pounding. "Let's finish this!" With a final barrage, they struck the core. The flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending shockwaves throughout the battlefield. The Galactic Council's forces faltered, their morale shattered. As the dust settled, the humans cheered. They had turned the tide, and their victory was undeniable. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted. Humanity had fought against all odds and emerged victorious. The Galactic Council's reign of terror was over, and they had proven that even the mightiest enemies could be defeated when united by courage and determination. In the aftermath, President Elena Carter addressed the world. "We have shown the galaxy that humanity will not be silenced. We are strong, and we are free. Together, we will build a future of peace." The Final Showdown had marked a new beginning for humanity. They had fought for their freedom and won, standing as a testament to the strength of the human spirit.